next time. Or, yeah, thank you. So the question is, why is that we feel like solving the problem even though there is no force? Nobody told that you have to solve the problem. We didn't say any submission, nothing like that. But with homework, why does it not happen? So I wanted to really have the conversation around that rather than the specific problems. So I'll just go through the specific problems quite rapidly. If Yeah, Santosh, that's correct. I want to have a conversation, Santosh. Santosh Asija said curiosity to solve. That's very important. So let's have a conversation, all of us. We will try and put out our points and try and see whether you can speak on the audio itself so we can have a lively conversation for about 15-20 minutes. The problems per se were the following. Okay. The problems per se were, one of them was this little puzzle at the top right-hand corner, where it has two numbers which are given, the length and width of a certain rectangle. And we also know that there are three squares, and we also know that they are arranged in a way that the sum of the dark blue plus the purple is equal to the light blue, right? I mean, so we know that, and then we try to solve it. Okay. First, Ganapati tried to solve it in a way by assuming certain things. We said we can't really assume some things which we don't have yet. Uh, so because by visually looking at it, we can't assume, because nobody has said in the problem statement that it is indeed the same. Then we got into some place, we got stuck somewhere, and then we said, okay, we will solve the puzzle in a certain way. All that is fine. I mean, and eventually, the number which was given, whether it was by Ganapati or by Tenmuri, or when Bama and I were trying to solve, all of us got 20 squares. That's okay. I mean, the answer is that's fine. I mean, the answer is the answer is fine. Then the next question we had was this. So Manju, are you around? I don't think she's there. Is she?
Uh, Tenmozi and Jaya said they cannot join. Manju hasn't replied yet.
Manju hasn't replied. That's okay. Okay. So Manju has tried to solve it like, very, very analytically by giving variables and names and this and that and all that. Whereas if you take the answer which was given by Pushpa, or the problem, or it was done by Rajni Gupta, both of these are really the simpler and the more intuitive ways to go about it. All we are saying is these lines which are there, if you take the first diagram, which contains the number 7, 15, 21, we know that these numbers are sitting on an arithmetic progression, which means there is a circle, then 7, a blank circle, and 15. So the number which is sitting between 7 and 15 has to be in arithmetic progression, which means it's a number 11. And the moment we get the number 11, we now know the bubble which is 0, 11, 0, 21. Then the number has to be 16, and we can sort of fill it up. Okay. We don't really need to throw any big X and Y and all these variables and all that. We can just intuitively fill up the whole grid. And I guess that's really what Pushpa Ashwin as well as Rajni Gupta have done. And the third puzzle was in terms of the tavern, and where Jaya had worked it out, and it's 30 diamonds, and you can work it backwards and all that. Anyway, so thank you for all the people who had put out these things, and I had in between asked a question saying either a 20 thieves instead of 5. It's the idea about solving it for a general problem rather than for a specific problem. Okay, so these were all great. So let me stop sharing, and so Santosh, Ganapati, any of you, Lata, Veena, Shruti, Pooja, Sridevi, Anupama, whoever, Ruchi, tell me how many of you really attempted. Just tell me honestly, how many of you, you can put it in the chat, or you can just say I tried. That will give us a sense of whether we tried, whether we put it, whether we tried to solve it. How many of us tried? Lata, you tried. Which one did you try, Lata? If you can speak up, Lata, that might be great also.
Actually, the fourth one I tried out.
Fourth one is which one, ma? So fourth makes it, let
The
me see.
20 diamonds, I think.
Yeah. You had put. So the diamond
Yeah.
puzzle, did you try? The diamond itself, forget that 20 diamonds, but did you try the diamond
Uh,
puzzle itself?
no, you know what? I was so held up with my work, I couldn't try. But when immediately when I was free and I saw, I couldn't resist myself, so I had to immediately try out with this. But I
Mm,
really
mm.
missed. I missed doing the other things. I was so even with health issues, I had some problems, so I couldn't do that.
Right. So let's continue on the thread which Ganapati raised a little bit earlier. He was saying that he wrote the puzzle on a piece of paper and carried it in his pocket. So Ganapati, can you tell me what is that prompts us to do something like that? If
Sir,
we
it
give a
was
homework to our children, one second, if we give our homework to our children, do they, if they can't do it, will they normally come back and say, yesterday there was power cut, yesterday we couldn't do this, and somebody came? Or do they say, I carry it in my pocket and I sat in some place and somehow tried to solve it?
sir.
What makes us do that?
Actually, that particular question make me to understand something where I was able to know, so that I wanted to solve. The remaining question, the idea only did not came to me. Right?
That's okay.
The semicircle one. Okay, I did not had any idea about that one. Whereas the square and those other the remaining, even the AP question was, we had an idea. Okay, so that I wanted to solve. The one thing is, yeah, I know something. Let me try attempt it without knowing. Going no use there, because nothing is for okay. It's just like seeing something. Whereas some thoughts, some ideas, if I'm able to get it, that poked me to no, I can do, I can solve. But question was how. Doing different way, different varieties. Whoever my friends or whoever comes on the way. Hey, even one of the question was given for my student also, sir. Forgot to tell that I had a substitution in one of the grade. The child is really good. It is almost very active, and wherever he goes, he gets the best one. Okay, then looking at him, he told very clearly, sir, use this divide congruency. Until and unless you people mention in the group congruency did not thought for my mind. He is in ninth standard. The child told, use congruency, sir. With not even fraction of time, as soon as I draw that figure, right, the child told congruency. I was literally shocked, sir. Even today, seeing that child, how the God has given the gift for a few of them, because he don't know. I'm not sure that he knows that all the because we have been experienced, we have come across those type of puzzles or the application based one, but giving in ninth standard, and the ninth standard kid was able to tell in one shot congruency. I was really surprised. And later on when he started, okay, let me try with that particular things and remaining puzzles also, AP and circle addition or additions of those things, we were able to solve. It just poked me, sir, because the concept was some link came to my mind. That was the main thing where I tried it. And until it was I was able to solve, really I did not sleep. Whenever I woke up, hey, how to do this way, that way, this way, all the ways my mind was working. That was where I enjoy. Actually, I enjoy pain with enjoyment. As you told, it is a pain until I get, yes, I should do a pain. It was enjoyable one. Small chota mota works I used to learn. Okay, some classes also in my evening classes. I thought, hey, you do guys. I have this puzzle. Let me solve, because that was the time I was able to get it. If I go home again with the wife and the family, I was not able to concentrate. You carry on with this one. Let me try this one. I wasted many hours together, sir. At least around 4 5 hours I wasted for that puzzle. More than.
Interesting choice of word. You wasted 4 hours. So Anupama,
For
you
me,
Ruchi, go on.
For me also, there was the thing like for the first two, I was not able to visualize the solution basically. And उसके बाद बैठकर सोचने का थोड़ा time भी नहीं मिला. But movingly, I tried to thought about it and try to sort it out. But I don't know, this time I really failed to work upon it. I looked for the answers, but I couldn't get the just how should I go for it. That was the problem for me. Whereas when I was working with AP series, that I was able to solve it orally. And again, the thief one के लिए थोड़ा सा time no doubt नहीं मिला. I'm sorry, but I'll try them of course again.
Yeah. This is another interesting
Thank you.
point, right, Ruchi? So the problem, which was the arithmetic progression problem, okay, just for the interest of everybody, I'll share my screen one more time. So if you look at this arithmetic progression problem, the problem here, right, fill the bubbles so that each of these lines contain an arithmetic progression or an arithmetic sequence. What will these bubbles look like? And we can sort of, linearly try to solve it. I mean, slowly, you see the number 7 here, and then 15. So the number between the two, this has to be 11. Then we have 11 and 21, and this number is sitting in between, and we know that it goes in an arithmetic sequence. So this has to be the number 16. And then if this is the pattern, then this number has to be the number 6. And we can slowly try to solve it. So we then go the other way and say, so therefore this number has to be 3. Then we go this way and say this number has to be, I don't know, 12 or something like that. Okay, like that we can solve. Okay, it's a little bit cranky, this pen of mine, but that's okay. So this is one clearly that is one. The tavern problem, Ruchi, you tried that also? This one, the 5 thieves who are in a tavern and all that? Okay. Ruchi was done with the 2 minutes and then she switched off. Ruchi, are you there? So tavern problem, how many of you tried?
Yeah, it's
Yes, go on, Ruchi. Yeah.
it's now making me to understand some concept, and I think I could solve it. Now I'll try again.
Yeah. More than the concept itself, what happened when you tried solving, you said the other puzzles, like this puzzle, the geometric one, this one, right? This puzzle versus the arithmetic progression puzzle. Was there anything different you felt between this one and that one? Anybody can go ahead as well. So Indra or Indra or Sridevi, why didn't you try this geometric puzzle? You both said you tried the arithmetic progression puzzle, which is great. I mean, the arithmetic puzzle was a very beautiful puzzle, a wonderful way to learn arithmetic progression, honestly, rather than just getting ourselves and saying, this and that and all that. This is a very beautiful puzzle. These little bubbles, this is a very nice one. You tried this, you didn't try the other one. Any particular reason why you didn't try? Whether it's Shruti or Indra or Sridevi? No. Either have a very shy bunch of people or a very busy bunch of people. Either way, that's fine. So let's keep moving. Yeah, and in most of these
To
puzzles.
interrupt here, can I
Yes, go on,
on?
Lata. Yeah.
The first problem, as soon as I saw, I realized it was two right angle triangle over there. But since I don't have a lot of touch with trigonometry, you know what, I couldn't proceed. I was stuck over there. It was very evident that here it has to be 1 5, and the unit of this will be 1 on either side, but I didn't know how to proceed. Yes, I also could relate to essays or congruency of triangles, But again, always it would be like, if the lighter blue, light blue triangle has to be bigger than the dark blue triangle. So what was the unit that will be greater than the dark blue square? So
So,
somewhere maybe again, since we are not in touch with some concepts, that also will I mean, it can be a drawback for us.
yeah. Lata, just a follow-up question for you. Do you think that you thought this might require trigonometry and something we don't know, which prevented us from even thinking about it? Or is it that this problem was beyond our ability? Is it that we somewhere along the way became a slave to the whole idea of structuring mathematics as trigonometry and algebra and formulas and this and that? That as adults, we have come to a place where we think, if I have, which I don't know trigonometry, then I can't solve this, because this problem doesn't require any trigonometry, by the way. Okay, and
um
most good puzzles will not call for anything which is most good puzzles don't call for anything which we haven't learned by, let's say, 7th, 8th grade. Okay,
yeah,
most good
definitely, I
puzzles I
do
have
agree
seen.
with you.
Hmm.
Maybe this time I see, I'm a person where who likes to be challenged, and the puzzles, when I receive the puzzles, I,
Hmm.
like what Mr. Ganesh said, it is like a sweet pain. I tend
Hmm.
to solve it.
Hmm.
But that's
Hmm.
what, again, the circumstances also matters. We are so
Hmm.
held up with our correction works and all those things. Maybe
Hmm.
I'm giving you an excuse, but that is a genuine excuse that I can give you, that we are so
Hmm.
held up with our works that sometimes we have to forego with our passion also.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So maybe that
Yeah.
was the reason I brought in, not to solve the problem, maybe to give more time with that. So I can find an excuse at this situation, that's all. But I'm really sorry about it.
No, no, no. Don't be sorry. Uh, yeah, just want us to, before we proceed further with the didactic of today, which is data handling, want to just leave with a couple of thoughts. Because many times we go through life, this is not exactly mathematics, but just more something I have reflected on very often. See, when we go through life, right? I mean, a lot of our life gets taken up in the busyness of it, the action, that somehow gives us a lot of meaning and somehow makes us feel like we are being useful and worthwhile. And there's action, 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 and anything which doesn't have a immediate practical value, we think of it as a luxury which we shouldn't be wasting time on. Something makes us feel guilty that I'm spending time on solving this tiny little puzzle here, right? I mean, this yellow or light green, dark green puzzle which is in front of the screen. If I spend time on it, what will it be? Instead, I can use the time in terms of preparing for the next day. I can correct this particular paper. I understand all of us have time pressures. Just always take some time out for yourself, so that you are able to provide enough nourishment for your soul, more nourishment for your, the more spiritual self, so that we all have great energy when we enter every day. That is much more beyond just the practical value of our life. Just think about it a little bit. Let's not get so practical as a human being, because there comes a time. I mean, I'm older than most of you, so I don't want to preach or anything, but I just want to say that you come to a place where you wonder that, was it all worth it? I mean, every one of those little actions, was everything had to be done, or I could have probably prioritized and said, let me spend some time on myself, just sit and solve this light green, dark green, but assuming it interests me. If it doesn't interest me, you should not do it. Then it's not at all soulful. But we should definitely allocate some time. And we should not put it through the lens of, does it have immediate practical value? What will I become by doing this? I won't get promoted in my school. It's not that somebody is going to appreciate me. It is not that I get some job done. It is not even mandatory to do this, but I still want to do it. So we have to ask ourselves, why is that I want to do that? And see if we can solve this. This is one where none of us have really attempted yet. So if you can try that, and we will be posting some more. The larger point, of course, we wanted to make, which Ganapati was talking about, is also the point that when we give homework to our children, just see whether we can give homework in such a way that they themselves feel like, I want to do this homework. Not because my parents are asking me to do it, not because my teacher will scold me tomorrow if I don't submit the homework, not because that there are marks for this particular homework submission on time. No external force, no reason for them to feel compelled, but intrinsically they feel motivated to say, I want to somehow be able to solve this. Okay, like a great homework which we can give is this, this one which Sendil had posted sometime back after this arithmetic progression. These bubbles are a great way we learn arithmetic progression, but and this one is also very nice. I'll tell you which one. Yeah, this one, right? Some of the first 14 terms of an arithmetic progression is some number. If the first term is so much, what will be the 20th term? So these are all the kinds of homeworks, something which taps into something which is beyond our immediate logical energy, something which taps into our creative energy is a question which we have to ask. Does it tap into our creative energy as well? All right. So with that, let me get going. So that's a lot which we have spoken about. Thank you, everyone, for who are made an attempt. Thank you very much. And those who couldn't, go back and make an attempt and see how it feels more than the answer itself. From the last 2 or 3 sessions, what we are coming back to again and again. Just get into the emotion of things rather than the logic of things. See how it feels for you. What does it feel when you solve puzzles like this? And that's the same emotion we want to bring into our children. That sense of curiosity, like Santosh was talking about, or that need to somehow get to a place, even though I'm going through a struggle, I find it pleasurable to go through the struggle. All of that, try and see if we can create homeworks which will fit into all of these things. All right. So with that said, today's topic is really about what's called data handling. And let me see how to get this little arrow going, because it's okay. Yeah. So today's topic is on data handling. And as far as data handling is concerned, okay, how do any one of you introduce data handling? Do you want to discuss that very quickly or put it in the chat? How do you start data handling? As a teacher, if you do data handling, what is that you do? Discuss about different graphs. So Pooja, do you, attendance, okay. So let me ask Pooja, when you say discuss about different graphs, you bring some graphs into the classroom, Pooja. What is it you do?
Yeah, sir. Actually, we have Edifom board in the school, so we can show like nowadays like cricket match is going on, so we can discuss about how different varieties of graphs are used there. What do those graphs like tell you? Like when you see the graph, it represents something, some data. Like they say that this cricket match was like shown, India is ahead in this over or something like that. They tell. So it is, how do they collect and represent it? So it is a
Wonderful.
pictorial representation of any data. Data means what? Then they will only come out like whatever information we have collected from
Excellent.
the.
Very nice. Thank you, Pooja. And Anupama, that's also very nice, Anupama. Attendance, height and weight data, result analysis, and like even the question which Suvarna Lalita is talking about, discussing on will it rain, will it not? Okay, and Lata's also great. So these are all of them are
sir.
pretty. Yes, Suvarna.
Yeah. Sir, it is not about how it is how will it rain, will it not rain. It is how many of them like of the students in the class like rain.
Okay.
So getting
Yeah,
it
sorry.
more
Yeah.
contextual. That is
Make it
that
more
was my idea.
more contextual. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So because one of the things about data handling is often it gets introduced as a very dry topic. Okay. So we have to make it something which is far more relatable, because data is one place which you can relate to because it's out there all around. I'm trying to take a slightly different view to data handling, which is what we will do in the next 45 minutes or so. Let's say we take a topic like central tendency. So we all know what central tendency is. Central tendency is, given a certain amount of data, what is the center of this data? What could I say is at the center of this particular data set? Then somebody came up and said we can calculate what's called an average and a median, a mode. We have to ask ourselves the question: why can't we just have one central tendency? Why is that average is not good enough? Can somebody tell me, if I have a set of data and I take the average of it and say that's the center of the data? Okay, I measure that. I buy 10 oranges. I measure the diameter of all the 10 oranges. I calculate the average of the diameters and say the average diameter of an orange is equal to 2 inches. Why is that we need other central tendencies? Why is that we suddenly come up and say we need mean and or average, and then we say average won't say the mid value? So what? It
Sir,
does
may
say
I?
the mid value. It is not a value. It does say the mid value, Pooja. It doesn't say a value which is already there in the data set. So what? See, like for instance, there are two tests you give a child. Okay, in the
Sir, may
first
I?
test, the child scores. Yeah. One second, Pooja. In the first test, I'm just asking Pooja, Shelly, and then we'll come to you, Shelly. So in the first test, the child gets 80 marks, and the second test, the child gets 90. And then you say on an average you scored 85. It's neither the 80 she scored nor the 90 she scored, but she understands that it's 85 marks she got. Why should it be that the average has to be one of the two values?
It
Shelly, go
actually
ahead.
doesn't show the
Yeah, go on, Pooja.
variation in the actually data.
Huh?
There is so much of varied values. Like it
Hmm.
will only take the average of it. Like
Hmm.
which value she has scored the highest, which value she scored the least. That kind of
Hmm.
the arrangement of the data is not possible in mean.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Where
Hmm.
where in median you can show that what is the middlemost value, and in mode you can show which is the maximum value.
Hmm.
That in mean.
Right. Yeah. So because Sridevi, if you can go mute, Smita, if you can help me with getting Sridevi. Yeah, thank you. That's correct, Pooja. To a large extent, what you're saying is right. So if I have 5 pieces of data, okay, and if the pieces of data are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the average is 3. But if I have the values as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 73,000, the average will be something really ridiculous, which doesn't represent the data itself. If the pieces of data are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 73,000, the average of all these numbers is going to be some number like 14,600 and something, which doesn't make any sense at all. Whereas if you take something like a median, it will still be 3 for a data set which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 73,000 also has the same median. So median does have some value. But to introduce some of these ideas, okay, one of the things we could do as a class experiment is using a pack of cards. And if you don't think a pack of cards is the right thing to bring into a classroom, you can create your own cards. Yeah. So I'm not saying a pack of cards is something I'm very comfortable with. But if you don't feel comfortable with a pack of cards because it has some other linkages in terms of gambling and everything else, so you can bring your own set of cards. But do it as an experiment before we even speak about central tendency, where we deal out some 7 cards and ask the children to arrange it in an ascending order. And then we can then see what is the average of all these numbers. That's very straightforward. Yes, Santosh. We can use a pack of. I use a normal pack of cards. I mean, I'm very comfortable with a normal pack of cards. And whether it is used for gambling or not, it's not the pack of cards which is used for gambling. It's we have created gambling on top of a pack of cards. So I have, no enmity with a pack of cards as such. So arranging them in an ascending order to find out the average, and then we could just flip left and right extreme and repeat it as we come to the center. See, there are 7 cards, right? All of them facing up. Then we put them in an array, ascending order. Then what we do is we start flipping the edge most. The first card and the 7th card, make it now, they were face up. Now close the face so that they show the back. Then you take the 6th and 2nd and the 6th and close it. 3rd and the 5th and close it. What we are left with is basically what is in the center, which is another type of central tendency called median. And then if those 7 cards are dealt where the numbers are not unique, you can stack them on one on top of the other. We can get another central tendency. Then we could expand the problem like our low floor, high ceiling. We could expand the problem and say, what if there are 8 cards? Now you flip the edge most, and suddenly you're left with 2 cards in the middle. And then we can try and explore that in terms of what a median is. In all this, what we are trying to get at is saying that if we keep it exploratory, then chances are that all these ideas get absorbed in one shot very quickly and directly by the children, whether it is a mean or a median or a mode or a range or any of the central tendencies, all of them get absorbed in one shot, and we can go through that way. So data handling as such is, we have spoken about this. There are 3 elements in every mathematical class or any mathematical topic. One is there is a computational and a procedural part to it. Then there are concepts which has to be learned and understood and reflected on. And there is a certain amount of problem solving which has to be done. If we keep any of our math topic as focused on computation and procedure, then it gets really, really boring. It doesn't matter which topic we are talking about, whether it is data or algebra or trigonometry or fractions or anything, arithmetic progression, any of these topics. If we keep it all focused on this computational and procedural, it can get very boring. And whether it is, if you start off by saying, so this is something called tally marks, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, scratch, 1, 2, 3, 4, scratch, and 1, 2, 3, 4, scratch, or start doing pie graph and column graph and all that, using some examples which make no sense whatsoever, which is like, there are 7 blue cars and 8 yellow cars. What will the bar graph look like? Nobody can relate to it. I don't know what we are doing. It's a soulless activity. It doesn't have any joy embedded in it. It's just a very dry computational process. Okay. And we can keep going on and on and on and on, which basically makes data handling feel like a clerical activity where I just have to record something, assemble something, and present it. Data handling starts feeling like a clerical topic where I just have to record something, assemble it, and present it in a certain way. Now that takes the soul out of the entire idea called data handling itself. So therefore, what is that we could do as far as data handling is concerned is what we want to get to. Okay, I'm going to make a big bold statement and say, for those of us who are not planning to pursue higher mathematics, data handling is probably, arguably, the most important life skill high school math can provide, with tremendously important social value. I want you to read this carefully. Those who are not planning to pursue higher mathematics, data handling is probably the most important life skill which high school mathematics can provide us. Okay, primary mathematics provides us the most important life skill, which is from mathematics, which is the addition, multiply. The 4 processes is the most important life skill which we get out of mathematics in primary. In high school, the most important practical skill or a life skill which we get is data analysis, because it can have huge social value. It can have tremendous social value. Okay, why do I say social value? Because if you look at it as a society today, right, all of us are a part of various WhatsApp groups, and we do get to witness some television debates. Each one of us seem to have some position on everything to do with, politics and religion and this and that, all kinds of things which are going around us. There are subtle and yet very, very massive changes which are happening. The first thing is the social media. I'm not accusing the social media of anything. I want us to become aware of what it does to us. Okay. Social media, again, is like a tool. Social media, what it has done is it has pushed all our opinions to an extreme. Okay. All of us seem to have a very clear idea of which kind of medicine works. Somebody says Ayurveda works and that works beautifully, and all this allopathy is a waste of time. And somebody will come and say Ayurveda is all humbug and then it is only allopathy. Somebody will say the modern education system is the right way to go about it. Somebody else will come and say, no, we have to go back to some Vedic era, some 5,000 years back, and that is the education system. A third person will come and say Macaulay education. I mean, all of us would have heard of this Macaulay. Have any of us gone and read a document which is written by Macaulay? We wouldn't have, because that's data. We are just running on emotional overdrive. It's like running on caffeine and adrenaline, getting on emotional overdrive. Each one of us have an idea about politics. Everybody has an idea about history, and we are completely getting divided because our opinions are getting pushed to an extreme, and it is getting to a place where we are on either a group on one side or on a group on other sides on all kinds of things, and we have got ourselves into a bimodal distribution. We are either on one side or the other side, and the side on the left doesn't want to hear what is said on the right side, and the side on the right doesn't want to hear what is said on the left side, and none of us want to look at data. Each one of us would have would have an opinion on each of these things. If we will have an opinion on, let us say, medicine, have we ever gone and read through what is the fundamental premise on which allopathy is based? What is the fundamental premise on which homeopathy is based? What is the fundamental premise on which Ayurveda is based? No, because those are data. We don't want that. We want the emotion. We want to start saying, this is the problem with modern medicine. This is the problem with Ayurveda. This is the problem with homeopathy, and so on. Politics, do we understand what is the kind of political system which we need for a country or a state or an individual? No, we don't want to get into data. We get divided and say, this is the political party and that's the political party. When we come to education, we say this is the right education system and that education system, rather than just scanning out and seeing what are the 10 different education systems which are prevailing around the world and what is the good I can learn from each of these things. So we have moved very far away from actually looking at data to having preconceived ideas about what we think the truth is or what we think the fact is, and that has become our truth. And we hold on to the truth as if our life belonged to it and our life depended on it. When we hold on to a truth, what happens is we become blinded by the fact. You can't see the fact anymore. If you hold on to your truth very, very strongly, you can't see facts anymore. Facts is data. Truth is your belief. If we have to have one small change which all of us can make, is to become a little more open-minded and say, once in a while, I'm going to look at data and I'm going to look at the fact and see whether it will modify, amend, change, improve my understanding of the world around me. Will it improve the truth I'm holding on to? Truth is my belief system, what I take to be true. If I say this particular group of people are very bad, I will continue to believe. But once in a while, I have to go and look for data. And looking for data and making meaning of data is all about data analysis, which is why I was making that very large assertion right in the beginning, saying that data analysis and understanding data is probably the most important social value additive concept, which is there in high school mathematics. Because as we get more and more into black and white thinking as a society, We are getting into this bimodal distribution, exposing all kinds of societal fault lines, and our mind is no longer looking at data. It has just become a house for somebody else's opinion and somebody else's ideas. Take time out to switch off WhatsApp. Take time out to switch off your television. Take time out to spend time on yourself and make your ideas and opinions in terms of what do I truly believe in? What is that the data is saying? What is the history which I want to go back and actually learn about history? We are all educators. Each one of us would have talked about this Macaulay education system. What did Macaulay write? It's a small document, by the way. Macaulay wrote a small document. You can go back. It is there in archives.com. You can go and read the document and say, what is that guy was saying? Was it bad? You can then form your opinion. Then it becomes an informed opinion. I'm not saying you should love or hate Macaulay. Please feel free to do whatever. If you want to love that guy, go love him. Or if you want to hate him or you want to have no opinion, that's all fine. But the appeal we are making here is please go and read the actual facts which are there out there so that we are able to tell our children, go and look for data. After you have looked at the data, then you try and make sense of that particular data so that we are able to make an unbiased data analysis. So the only appeal we need to have for ourselves and for our children is if we have to recapture the middle ground as a society, then we should have the openness to go and look at the actual data itself. What is my data telling me? I have an opinion, but is my opinion right? The first thing is to have the humility that I might not have the right opinion on all things all the time. The second is to say that, can I modify my opinion? And if I have to modify the opinion, where will I go and find data? Then go and read the data. When we read the data, we need to know how to interpret, how to analyze, and how to make sense of data. And that is where the tool called data analysis, which we learn in high school mathematics, comes in extremely handy. And if we can equip all our children with that, then we will have a country full of citizens where people are doing careful data analysis and using that analytical mind, the scientific temper, to then go and understand the reality and make their own opinions. Then, of course, a society has to have arguments, it has to have multiple opinions, but these all become informed opinions based on data, so that the arguments and the discussions is not coming from an emotional bias, rather it is coming from data, which we can thrash it out and discuss. And that's the way to capture the middle ground as a society itself. Okay. The other place where data handling is a little bit different from other things is most of mathematics has always been about solving problems using some logical steps, which will take us towards a concrete answer. Whereas in the case of data analysis, we try to sometimes introduce it like that, as if there is a problem and we have to now present the problem as a bar graph or a pie graph or column graph or range, mean, median, mode, and all that. Instead, if we first take a step back and say that as far as data handling is concerned, it is a kind of problem where the answer is out there. The answer is hidden in the data itself. So we don't have to do anything. Okay. If we were to ask a question, 5x plus 7 equal to 17, and how much is x, then we have to go through a logical process. If you ask the question 5x plus 7 equal to 17, we have to go through a logical process, which is you take 7 out of each side. We go through a logical process. Then we come into data analysis and try and introduce and look at data analysis exactly like that problem of 5x plus 7 equal to 17. We say, okay, here is data analysis. Then we will go and do one bar graph. Then we go and do one column graph, one pie graph. We do this and this and this, and that's equal to data analysis. There's something much more profound and basic when it comes to data analysis or data handling before that. What is that? That is, it is a type of problem where the answer is already there in the data. Our job is to slowly extract that answer out in as unbiased a manner as possible. Without allowing our biases to come in, we want to slowly extricate it. It's like slowly tying the knots and extricating it. It is like a sculptor. You take a large stone and you want to sculpt, let us say, the picture of a god or an idol or something like that. Is the idol already there in the stone? Yes, it is inside the stone. What we have to do is we have to remove all the parts which is not required so that we have sculpted out. Data handling has to be understood like that. Data handling has to be understood like this mass, this large stone already has the sculpture inside it. And my job is to remove the parts which are not relevant so that I'm able to extract it and come to it slowly. So our job really is to make information usable by separating the important parts. And then the procedural part of arranging them and making meaning of them so that we can come to the right conclusions and decisions, whatever decisions we have to make. In doing so, it's important for us to, at that point in time, I'm not saying I'm not saying don't have an opinion to things, feel free and have as many opinions as you want. But at the time of data analysis, our biases should not come in. Otherwise, we might end up collecting data in the form that is convenient for us, which will reaffirm our pre-existing biases. So there is a certain way in which we have to collect data, which is an unbiased way of collecting data. If you're finding data, so let's say we tell ourselves saying that, every time I, go to the bus, just 2 minutes before that, the bus goes. Just collect the data. That's it. You start collecting data from tomorrow onwards. Whenever you run to the bus, note down the time at which you reach the bus stop and see when is that the bus comes. And once we start collecting data, we should not get biased and say, no, I know it always, I'm very unlucky and it happens like that. Okay. That is a bias. What we want to do is, you might be right, you might be wrong. I'm not making an assertion on that. But what we want to do is to just collect data. Okay. And collecting data is not as easy as it sounds. I want to just, use your chat box to try and answer a couple of simple questions I'm going to be asking here. Okay, I have one thing on, yeah, okay. Okay, I want you to imagine this, all right? What I want you to imagine is this person, his name is Mark. His name is Mark. He's a thin man from Germany, wears glasses, and who likes to listen to Mozart. Mozart is that, the child prodigy who's a great composer. Many of our nursery rhymes are based on Mozart. Which one of this is more likely? A, Mark is a truck driver. B, Mark is a professor of literature in Frankfurt. Go ahead, use your chat box and type in A or B. Okay. Every one of us so far, whether it is Pushpa Lata or Lata, Indra, Sendal, Shaili, Pooja, Swarna. Yeah, we can stop here, Anupama. Thank you. Which one of these is more likely? And what we say is that B is more likely, that Mark is a professor of literature in Frankfurt. In a book written by an author called Rolf Dobelli, he talks about this particular problem, and he calls it as what is called a base rate neglect. A base rate neglect is a type of bias which is there in our head, which is able to take a certain profile and fit it into a certain structure which is preconceived in our thought process. And if it makes sense, we take that to be right, with no consideration to how probable something is. Let's take this situation. A professor of literature in Frankfurt. A professor, which means schools are out. We are talking about college. In Frankfurt, okay, colleges in Frankfurt. And in that, we are talking about literature, okay. So let's say there are, 50 colleges in Frankfurt? And each college might have 20 literature professors. 50 into 20, we are talking about 1,000 people. If you look at the number of truck drivers in Germany, you're talking about 1 million people. So we are probably talking about one, which is 1,000 times the other. Just the sheer fact that the total sample, the total population is only 1,000, and in the others, the total population is equal to 1 million, means that Mark is far more likely to be a truck driver than a professor of literature in Frankfurt. But our mind doesn't kind of work that way. What it does is it ignores the base rate. Okay. So see, I want to be very, very precise here. Mark is more likely to be a truck driver than a professor of Frankfurt, is what I'm saying. So the answer is more likely to be A than B. I'm not saying Mark cannot be B. Mark could very well be B, which is a professor of literature in Frankfurt. Just looking at the base rate, just looking at the amount of population, if you have to pick somebody at random, that it's unlikely that a profile which we have drawn, which is a thin man wearing glasses and listens to Mozart, is a kind of a description we have built in our head that this person is likely to be a professor of literature. And therefore, even though the number of professors in literature is just 1,000 as compared to 1 million truck drivers, which is 1,000 times more, we tend to think that this fits into an X profile or not. This is the way we make conclusions about smaller ethnic groups as well. Very often we make decisions, we make opinions on small ethnic groups and create our own things, because once we have our biases, which are far more evolved and thriving in our head, then we can make those quick judgments about people, even though ignoring what is called the base rate itself. Okay. Now we know the gig. Okay. The gig is
Just
that.
to interrupt here, sir.
Yes, Lata, go on.
Here, when I read Mark is a thin man from Germany with
Mhm.
glasses who likes to listen. With glasses is something that's made me select this, because since he cannot be a truck driver, because if he with glasses, usually they don't get that heavy vehicle license and all those. So those things makes us stick on to one particular answer. I felt then thinking this way.
Good point, Lata. Good point. I want you to just collect some data. Okay. Now,
Okay.
carry this only one thing in your head. Truck drivers
Yeah.
don't wear glasses. Okay. And go and observe truck drivers for the next month or so.
Yeah.
Okay. It'll be very, very
Perfect.
interesting for us. Okay.
Yeah,
It is a
right.
very interesting exercise. Please do that. I've done many, many little experiments like this, and I find each one of them to be extremely educative. Okay, let's go with this idea. Truck drivers don't wear glasses. And whenever you get an opportunity to see a truck, just peek into it and see whether they are wearing glasses or not. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm not
right.
saying truck drivers wear glasses, but it's not as rare as you think, or
Yeah.
definitely not one of those impossibilities. So the trick in this form of thinking is what I've forgotten this guy. Anyway, in the medical field, it is said that when you hear the hoof beats, you think of a horse and not a zebra. The sound, the hoof beats, right? Tuck, 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 like that. When you hear the hoof beats, the first thing we have to think of is it's probably a horse which is crossing. You're sitting inside your house and you're hearing the hoof beats. Okay. Outside, you will think there is a horse which is going on the road, and you will not think that it's a zebra which is going. So whenever we see a situation, whether it is social, political, with ethnic groups or anything like that, The first step for us is to try and see, can it be a very simple explanation that the person is, struggling with something. The person doesn't, is going hungry. The person doesn't have this. And that's why somebody is reacting and doing things in a certain way, rather than complicating and thinking that it's probably a zebra, because WhatsApp and other social media, which we talked about, which is pushing us towards bimodal distribution. And I don't know why every WhatsApp group seems to be wanting to solve social problems, but only on WhatsApp, but not getting into society, but it wants to keep talking about it on WhatsApp. Okay. And to actually reflect and ask ourselves this question, are we imagining too many zebras which are out there as compared to a society full of horses, which is fine? I mean, whenever we hear a hoof beats, it's likely to be a horse and not a zebra, which is not to say there is no zebra out there. That's much more rare than the other one. It's much more rare to find a professor of literature in Frankfurt as compared to a truck driver, simply because there are far more truck drivers than this. Okay, now we have understood where we are going. I'm going to trap you in something, right? And that's what it is, which with that, we will go to the next slide. Anyway, the next slide is just a factual information, which says studies have shown that there is a 40% greater chance of people listening to your ideas if it's supported with facts and figures. Okay. Do you agree with this? Can you put it on the chat? Do you agree with this statement? Right. We have two responses right away, and there'll be more. People are saying yes and no. Pushparata, why do you say no? And Shaili, why do you say yes? And Pooja says not sure. Okay, three responses. All three are very interesting. Pushpalata, would you know why you say no?
Yes, sir. I think here the statement is studies have shown there is a 40% greater chances of people listening to your ideas if it is supported with the facts and figures is there. So if we provide if we provide facts and figures, probably I think most of the people may agree with it. 99% may agree with it.
Okay. You're saying much more than 40%. Okay, got it. Yeah. Shaili also says yes, because then you are in the same side as Shaili. And Pooja says not sure. Why is that, Pooja, you say not sure?
Sir, it's like what kind of facts and figures that's important here? Is it related to many people, or data is collected from varied like localities or things like that? Or is it taken from one particular locality or one particular type of people? That way.
Got it. Yeah, the representation of the sample, how representative it is what you're coming to.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, so here is the trap. There's no such study. None of us asked the question. I made it up, by the way. There is no such study. Okay. This is a completely fake one I created that studies have shown. Because the one question none of us asked is which study? Show me the study. That is the question to ask.
Yes.
Okay. When we say studies have shown there is a 40% chance, the moment there is 40%, you thought I was saying something very true. And you are going down the path and holding hands with me and saying that, oh, it must be 40%, it will be 45%, it is representative sample, it is 99%. You already started walking with me without asking me, boss, which study are you talking about? Can you show me that study? This is what I'm appealing for. What I'm appealing for here is when it comes to data analysis, go and ask for the data. Show me the data. I'm not saying you're bluffing. I'm not saying you're being truthful or lying or nothing. Just show me the data. If we become all mature enough to come and keep asking, saying that I might agree with you, but just show me some proof, show me some data. Don't give me anecdotes and conjectures and your opinions and some random example. Can you show me data? A data which is representative, a data which is large enough. This is a good example, despite going through the previous example of that Mozart example of that thin man, Mark, whatever, wearing spectacles. We again got trapped here because the moment we saw 40%, we thought it must be something right only, because I actually carefully incorporate. If I had not put 40% and if I had not said studies, okay, if you had just said people listen to your ideas, if it's supported with facts and figures, you might not have believed it that much. The moment I introduced the other two lines, studies have shown. Who study? What study? I chuma made it up. That there is a 40% greater chance. Okay, that looks like data, right? So these are things which look like data, but they might not be data at all. Which study are we talking about? What do you mean by 40%? Can you show me how many people? Can you see whether it was represented at all? And now this is there all over the place. And if this is something which is there, okay, I will take you to this particular person who's a Nobel laureate, okay, who believed that large doses of vitamin C, I think having 10,000 milligrams, about 10 grams, can wipe out common cold from the face of earth, was told by a man who didn't win only one Nobel Prize. He won 2 Nobel Prizes. This is a person who won 2 Nobel Prizes. He's the same person who believed that he had a cure for, he also claimed he knew a cure for cancer, heart disease, and infections, which is again vitamin C, by the way. So the idea here is not to point out that this person was wrong. Then we are going down the wrong path all over again.
Sir, we can't share the Nobel Prize.
Huh? You can.
There's a
You can, ma. There are plenty of Nobel Prizes which are shared. You can, Lata. So this particular person said that vitamin C, okay, is a person who has had 2 Nobel Prizes, and the person said that vitamin C will wipe out common cold. And this happened many decades ago, and we know very well that one of us in this group will be having a common cold even today. Okay, so the idea is not to point out, so, oh, that's what I'm telling you, these guys are stupid. No, that's not the point. The point is, if somebody as brilliant as a man who can get 2 Nobel Prizes still got trapped in the way he was able to analyze the data, then who are we in terms of our ability to analyze data? And therefore, it is making that appeal all over again, what we are making for the last 5 slides, saying that let's go into data and get into it. That's the only way we are going to learn things which are happening around us as society. And that is the direction as math teachers, that we become responsible math teachers, where we are able to teach our children how to look at data. When there is a mass of data which is out there, how do I understand the data and make meaning out of it? And that is the ultimate objective of data analysis when it comes to high school data analysis teaching. That's all we are talking about. So when it comes to biases and admission, there's something I wanted to briefly touch upon. This is a real example, by the way. Okay, this is not a made-up example. I'm not going to come back and say I made it up. This is a real example. Let's take this one thing. In class 12 final exams, both boys and girls performed equally well. Okay, class 12 exam, both boys and girls did equally well. In fact, the girls did a little bit better than the boys. Now, out of 1,125 boys who applied to the university, 350 of them got accepted. Out of the same number of girls applied to the university as well, 1,125 girls applied to the university, only 290 were accepted. The acceptance rate for boys was 31%. The acceptance rate for girls was 26%. The question to you is a very simple one. Does the university have gender bias or not? The question is clear, right? Pushpalata is ready with an answer no. The last question on this one. Okay. Why do you think the university is not gender biased, Pushpalata?
Sir, I think it may be based on quality also. I mean, if they have given some test or exam based on that, also they might have selected.
No, they're selecting based on, so no external data. So they're selecting based on the 12th grade final results. Okay.
Oh.
So both boys and girls performed equally well. I'm also going to the extent of saying actually the girls did a little bit better than boys. Not very much better, little bit better. So 1,125 boys applied, 1,125 girls applied. Boys acceptance rate was 31%, girls acceptance rate was 26%.
Then
well, the others are just thinking about it. Pooja, I wanted to just once tell us this is how many fall for the trap. I want us to always keep these things quite open. This is how we fall for the trap.
Sir, sometimes in some advertisements and all, they give like it is the most liked product, and so many people have liked it. We never know what is actual fact about it, but we go with the data there. We just go believe them because we actually don't have any data in hand. So we have to sometimes trust it. So sometimes trust also matters. So that's what it is. So many times we fall
No,
trap.
trust is very important. We should definitely trust people, and trust is the most critical element in human relationships. It's very, very critical. Trusting is very different from gullibility. When it comes to data, we want people to just show me the data. That's all. I mean, I'm not saying you're, yeah, Smita, that's right. In God we trust, everybody else bring data, is what Narayan Murthy used to say. Okay. And convenient data. That is what Sendil is, that's the most important thing, because we can always create anecdotal data. Okay. So what happens is, we have an opinion to things and then we fit the data for it. And this is all of us. We should never think of, we all say that I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to be late. I'm stuck in traffic. We have to say, I am traffic. You are never stuck in traffic. Have you thought about it that you are part of the problem? So we are not, when we say we are stuck in traffic, we think traffic is out there and I, unfortunately, wonderful person went and got stuck in the traffic. No, I'm very much the traffic itself. So when I say traffic, which is a large problem, I'm a part of the problem. If my car was not there, the traffic would be slightly better. So you're never stuck in traffic, you are traffic. Okay, I'm not saying next time onwards you start saying that you are traffic, but I just want us to reflect on that. So therefore, whenever we come up with any opinion, that it might be very convenient, like Sandal says, it might be a very convenient way we look at it. And by the way, this is a real thing which happened. Okay, it became a big social case, I think, in the University of California at Berkeley. I have that slide coming up next, I think. So what happened in this particular case was that there were two departments, Department 1 and Department 2. For Department 1 or in Department 1, the number of boys who were accepted was 250 and the number of girls who were accepted was 130, and there was a certain reject ratio. It so happened that the acceptance ratio for Department 1 was much higher and boys had applied more for Department 1. So therefore, the acceptance rate for boys turned out to be much higher. See, there were two departments. One required a lot of students and the acceptance rate was very high at 40%. The second department had a lot of children who were applying for it and therefore had an acceptance rate of only 20%. It so happened that more girls had applied for the second department, which had only a 20% acceptance rate. 20% acceptance rate, whether you are a boy or a girl, there was only 20% acceptance rate. But more girls had applied for it, which meant that there were more rejections and lesser acceptance, which happened in this particular case. And in this particular case, it said that there was no gender bias, is what the study finally came, which became a legal case, and the legal document finally said. But it also said the absence of demonstrable bias in the graduate admission system does not give us grounds to conclude there must be no bias anywhere in the education process. It is just that in this particular case, there was no gender bias. It so happened that more children from more girls applied to a department which had a lesser acceptance rate as compared to another department. Okay, now this kind of a bias is a very complex one. It's not at all easy for us to catch it. And if we as math teachers don't catch it, what will we do? And this kind of problem is going on, whether it's in our WhatsApp or any other social media and Twitter and everything else. And our children will fall trapped to this. So we have to come back and understand data analysis in this particular context. This particular thing is what is called a Simpson's paradox. Okay, I won't take us into the details of what a Simpson paradox is, but if you're just wondering, this is a standalone case. I want to assure you that Simpson's paradox is something which is there everywhere. One recent example is the mortality rate in every age group, okay, was higher in China compared to Italy. Every age group, 0 to 10, higher mortality rate in China compared to Italy. 10 to 20, higher mortality rate in China compared to Italy. 20 to 30, higher mortality rate in China compared to Italy. But the overall mortality rate in Italy was much higher. You know why? Because the mortality rate in the 80 to 100 category was much higher, let's say 7%. And Italy just simply happened to have more old people because it's an aging society. It's exactly like more girls applied to a department which has lesser acceptance rate. It is just that Italy as a society had more older people, and therefore older people having a higher mortality rate meant that the overall population mortality rate of Italy was much higher. It wasn't that Italy was controlling it much poorly as compared to China. It was simply that Italy had much more older people. If you want to understand more about Simpson paradox, which is a very fascinating topic, you can go into this particular YouTube link. Okay, this kind of analysis is something which can prove either side of the argument, and you can prove it with equal conviction. So next time around, when you look at data, remember two, three simple things. A, what is the source of the data? Or you see an opinion, ask these 2, 3 questions. First, what is the data on which this opinion is based? 2, what is the source of this particular data? 3, who was that who compiled the data, which is to understand whether there can be any biases. 4, can I make an independent analysis of the data rather than going and getting into cognitive laziness and agreeing and accepting what the other person is saying? Cognitive laziness is even more if we have to agree with something which is already a pre-existing bias. Then we'll say, of course, I knew it all along. I knew it. All along, we might not have known it. Because if you look at data, we might have a different opinion. So rather worryingly, this type of analysis forms the basis of policy decisions. This forms the basis of our political debates. It forms the basis of arguments and divisions which are on WhatsApp. It forms the basis for dividing ourselves as human beings. So unless as individuals, as a collective, we come together and say that there might be a very, very valid reason why somebody might be doing things in a certain way, and create that empathy in ourselves. One way to truly create empathy is to go via the data. Empathy is an emotion, data is the dry part. But you need both of that, because if you have sufficient data, then we will be able to understand things from another person's point of view. So therefore, whenever we want to teach data handling, please keep a few things in mind. Okay, that keep all these large elements in mind when we are coming into data handling. And data handling is not about making tally marks and bar graph and pie graph and column graph, which all of that are very important. But it is not only that. It is not a procedural thing. Therefore, we can do a few things. One, we could teach them in the lower grades, which is simple counting. Okay, that we could teach in lower grades. By 6th grade, get into the other one, where somebody had mentioned, I can't remember which one of you, I think Pooja, Pushkala, someone was, or Anupama, I think, was talking about, which is taking an actual newspaper clipping with data and analyze it as a class. I think she was talking about the cricket matches or something like that. Analyze actual data as a class. We don't know how to analyze yet. We might not know how to make a bar graph, but we know how to read a bar graph. So reading some of this bar graph and pie graph and column graph should come before we know how to make it. So first have the capability and the capacity to read data, and then we will know how to create and prepare data. It's like reading comes before writing, right? It's something like that. First, the reading happens. The other part is try and do classroom surveys. I think again, somebody was saying you do classroom survey. Classroom surveys are very, very interesting and very powerful, and keeps it very joyous and fun also for children. Okay, so we could break the class into 4 or 5 groups, and one of the groups could go out and find out physical attributes of children in the school, which could be height, it could be anything else, the length of your finger divided by the length of your hand or something like that, and to try and see Fibonacci series and stuff like that. It could be on preferences. What is their favorite food? Who's their hero? Who's their sports hero? What is their, how many siblings do they have? It could be speeds, it could be date of birth, and all kinds of data could be collected. Just ensure what you're collecting later can come back into the classroom, and through that piece of data and the fun activity, we are able to learn those 4 or 5 things which we have to anyway learn, which is mean, median, mode, central tendency, frequency table, histograms, and bar graph, pie graph. All of that we have to learn. We have no escape from that. So therefore, keep the survey in such a way that we are able to come back and learn all of that as a classroom. Some of this will require some basic equipment, and please provide for that. And we should be able to do that as a classroom itself. Okay. Then I don't think I have time to go here. The second one I would appeal to is, so I won't go into this, but I want to say 1 minute about this particular book. If you can access, please do access it and read this particular book. It really tells us how to look at data. Okay. Hans Rosling is the person who's written this book. Unfortunately, he's passed on, but it's a very, very interesting book, which says 10 reasons why we are wrong about the world and why things are better than you think. Okay. It's a very, very hopeful story about the world we live in. And he will make you understand the world we live in using data. Okay. For that, one of the things we can ask our children to do is a simple neighborhood survey. A simple neighborhood survey where the kids can do it to their family and neighbors. Go and meet elderly. Okay. Go and look for people who are 70 years or older in the neighborhood or in the family or in the village. And ask all those ajis and ajjas, what was your education level? How much did you study up to? Did you go to school? And see whether there was any difference between whether the grandmothers went to school or grandfathers went to school equally, or one gender went to school more. Then try and ask them to repeat the survey for the age group, let us say 40 to 50. Then try and do it for their age group, which is 12 to 15 years. See whether our education levels as a society is going up or it is going down, whether the number of children who are getting educated, girl children who are getting educated, are going up or going down. Do the survey for, let us say, electricity. Was it available? Clean water, sanitation, what was it like? Try and do surveys of that nature. What were the number of trees like at that point in time? None of this might be accurate as a survey, but we will be able to get a fair idea if you're able to ask the right questions. We can ask them, how did this place look like? Were there more trees? What happened to all this land before this particular building came up? What was this place like? They will say it was like a forest. Then you can ask them, what kind of a forest was it? Was it the forest with all those thorny shrubs, or was it like trees? Who cut it? When did it happen? Why did they do it? Have you found it to be useful? It is doing those kinds of surveys. It is having those conversations. It is about having those conversations and understanding why is that somebody did something, and what is that we can understand from why they did it. So if you're able to use data as a catalyst for bringing people together, that is all that we are appealing for in this particular didactic. Use data, understand data, analyze data, so that we are able to understand that everybody who has a certain view or an opinion to things is having a view and opinion to things because of a certain set of circumstances. And if I, as an individual, is able to appreciate those certain set of circumstances, then chances are people will also understand the certain set of circumstances I come from and somebody else is coming from. And that will help us come closer as a society. We will have much more mutual trust. And all of that is coming because we are moving away from our preconceived ideas and biases and hardened opinions, and moving towards more and more of saying, let's look at the numbers, let's look at data, let's see how things have progressed, let's build a hopeful society as we move forward, is all that we are saying. So data handling is way too important a topic to be made into just a procedural topic. It is not about just recording and presenting data, but it's about getting a good understanding of ourselves, our biases, and using data as an opportunity for us to constantly update ourselves and modify ourselves in terms of our thoughts and ideas and views and opinions. All of us have to have thoughts, views, or ideas, opinions, and strong ideas in certain things. We have to have it. Not appealing for a weaker idea. Have strong ideas, have convictions, have energy, have the thing to go forward, but just be informed along the way so that our mind doesn't become a hostage to somebody else's thought process, but it becomes a breeding ground for it to look at data itself and make opinions and move forward. And if each one of us are able to get that critical thinking into our head by looking at data, I think the first big assertion I made will probably be understandable. This is the assertion I made, which is for those not planning to pursue higher mathematics, data handling is arguably the most important life skill high school math can provide us, because it has tremendous social value. Yeah. Thank you. That's about all I have.